Destiny not understanding that he's asking a game theory question, a game theory, but not like the lame thing, but like actually like game theory, like taught at fucking military colleges how to like figure shit out. And this game theory is how to commit a war crime and get away with it. What he's asking is literally, how can I do war crime actions and then have them be justified? That's literally what you're asking, because that's the result you're going to achieve. So, as we all know, Destiny is a guy on the internet. Destiny is the much beleaguered and much embattled center left, hyper left, ultra left, center right, ultra light, hyper right. No one knows or can really agree on. The only thing most people can agree on when it comes to Destiny is he, not me, for real, for real. Destiny is the political shadow of the internet. He has taken some profoundly bad positions on the Israel-Palestine conflict since it started popping off again in post-October 7th. Everyone knows, I don't need to go into the fucking backstory about it all, but obviously there's been a lot of conversation regarding it. My personal position is that if Israel does not have a full-on policy of like literally explicitly genocide against the Palestinians, their actions de facto are indiscernible from the same actions someone would take to create a genocide. In certain respects, I think that genocide through incompetence is somehow almost, I guess it can't literally be actually worse than an intentional genocide. But as far as an international embarrassment goes, I would rather be blamed for it outright than to have my actions considered indiscernible from it through sheer incompetence and stupidity. My personal belief is, just from a military standpoint, looking at stuff, you don't have to have a doctorate in game theory and military history to understand pretty uncomplex truth that Israel is dropping the bag on this one pretty much in every single way possible. They're completely fucked. On top of that, there has been just on both sides, of the conflict, which I'm going to roughly describe as basically being pro-Hamas, not pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas and pro-IDF. When we're talking about the conflict aspect of it, we're gonna remove the humanitarian aspect of this and talk about it strictly from a political military stance, so that people can try to be a little less upsetty spaghetti before you hear the things that I say. Just understand, I'm being callous as fuck intentionally. Best way to talk about military stuff. The pro-Hamas versus pro-IDF conversation is psychotic, because it is the Israeli Defense Forces have one of the most fumble-balled propaganda outfits in the history of mankind. It created one of the channel's first memes, hummus. And the Hamas side of things really isn't that much different. You can't trust either of their propaganda, any of their reporting. Aside from casualty reporting from Hamas, I understand is actually pretty accurate. Worldwide third-party observers, from what I've seen, I don't have it all at hand, their numbers when it comes to casualty estimates for this conflict and previous conflicts tend to be pretty accurate. IDF flubs the numbers like crazy. It's a whole big thing. During this, Destiny's general position, I'm not going to get into the hyper specifics of it, because like everything involving this goddamn conflict, there are subtleties and nuances to his opinions that if you don't state every single last one of them out, it for some reason devalues your interpretation of the opinion, even though it would generally be the exact same thing if you actually got down to the bottom of it. His is that there is no genocide happening in the Gaza Strip, I believe. Whatever. Israel is not doing specifically a genocide. And more than likely, Israel's treatment of the Palestinians, or at least the Gazan citizens, I guess you would say, Palestinians, doesn't constitute apartheid. I disagree with both of these things, just in general context. They're pretty wild. That brings me to this tweet, which I'm going to read the tweet, and then I'm going to tell you why the tweet is fucking very strange to me. As just a person that was in the military. And it's a lot of vibes-based stuff, but I'll get into it. Destiny. Law of armed conflict question, or law of land warfare is how I always talk about it. Lol. Curious if anyone knows the answer / can link a relevant IHL rule or something. What the fuck is IHL in this context? International Humanitarian Law. Okay. That's a strange one to be around. International humanitarian law is a set of rules that seeks for humanitarian reasons to limit the effects of armed conflict. Okay, who gives a fuck? There are so many goddamn... What are the 4 pillars of IHO? The prohibition on the infliction of unnecessary suffering, the principle of proportionality, the notion of necessity, the principle of humanity. Okay, all right. So that's why I don't know about that, because it just basically probably folds in next to perfectly with what we were taught while I was in the military. It's not rocket science. It never is rocket science. It's always just, this is what I mean by, you don't know the little intricate specific thing, and then the intricate specific thing is just like, okay, it's another layer of the same piece of baklava all the fucking way down. You know what I mean? They didn't drop the bag, they threw it. True. There is no genocide in Ba Sing Se. There is no genocide in Gaza clips. Go for it. I don't give a shit. If this is the question, though. If a military has designated a zone as a combat area, first weird thing, and has posted warnings or through audio communications told people to stay out, is the military within their legal right to kill civilians who are given the warnings but ignore them anyway? Do the civilians become military objects? Are they counted as aiding the enemy, taking part in hostilities? Or how does that interaction work? Assumptions. Civilians are fully aware of the warning. Military is clearly operating in the area. The civilians are aware of what they are doing. This is a weird question to be asking on March 31st of 2024 after having been in several debates on the topic and promoting yourself as something of an expert on the topic to your audience, because this is like little kid shit, like takes. This is... If you're in the military, particularly if you're in the combat arms section of the military, I don't know what the kind of rough and fast of it is, but I can boil it down to this. There's kind of an understanding in the military from the top down that if you have to ask whether or not it's right, assume it's wrong. All right, just assume you're fucking up. So that's always kind of like the first thing. If there is a line and you wonder if you've possibly crossed it, assume you have. And proceed thusly, basically. This is a crazy thing to ask. It's a good thing to ask when you start talking about stuff, because the biggest answer is no. The next answer is no. The third answer is like, what the fuck? No. This has a level of not understanding baked into it that's kind of like, okay, well, if someone can build a wall for a house, what prevents you from building a wall that's so tall that it can hit the moon and spin the earth? And it's like, well, that's you can start with, that's impossible and like a crazy thing to ask, but it's adorable that you did. And then like in between the next, when you really re-arrive at, because it's fucking impossible, you have all of the like science and explanation to get to there. That whole big chunk is like series of, it's the entirety of like learning on the subjects. It's physics. It's like adorable. You know, it's cute that you asked that. It's going to take me a long time. So my response to this was, this is such a kind of irresponsible, like such a crazy question to be asking in the middle of this like debate series that you're getting on, that it's kind of like irresponsible to ask it on Twitter. Like it's psychotic. It's psychotic to ask this to like Twitter. for a lot of different reasons. So first off, if a military has designated a zone as a combat area and has posted warnings or audio communications, told people to stay out, is the military within their right? Okay, so hold on. Sorry, let me just stay right here. This one first. This is just the first bit of this. This is impossible. This is just not a thing that happens. That's just not a thing. What you're sort of describing is like a theater of operations or like a combat zone. Those are ways of kind of slicing the pie for your maps that you use, but it is not an official designation of an area that means anything to anyone outside of the military. So like when I went to Iraq, my literal combat area or our theater of operations, for instance, on my first deployment for the entire Marine Corps was basically like Al Anbar province, which is the western chunk of it, basically west and north of like the Euphrates. It's a big chunk. If Iraq is like this, it's this bit over here. My battalion's area was like this big chunk south, I think it was south of Mobil, MSR Mobil, south and north. It was actually a huge bit. My actual company's space were one little chunk called the Pizza Slice, and then the town of Al Sakalawea, and a few like farm regions outside of it, all the way to a place called Stitcher. My platoon's theater of operations for a chunk of time was observation post 286, which was a guard post basically on an overpass over a highway, right? That we were in charge of. My responsibility area was what I could see in front of a Mark 19 and a 240 going in this direction for certain hours of a day. So like to say like a combat zone is like, it's such a temporary and fleeting thing that it's pointless to designate. So you have like theaters of operations. You can say like this area is a combat zone because there's combat going on in it. And so like when the combat stops, it's not a combat zone anymore. You just call it different shit. It's weird. It's such a weird thing to say, but a military the whole military has designated that zone as a combat zone is crazy. This is just, what the fuck are you talking about? Say Killjoy, Tyler, your ROEs keep you so far from war crimes that trying to figure out if you did one is basically not a question. You know when you did a war crime. It's like super obvious. Yeah, like it would be crazy. There are kill zones that you can establish, also highly temporary and highly specific and still governed by shit. So like this is a thing in my area. Basically, if you have a base, right? Or if you have a standard position, you can say for specific reasons that anything that walks into a certain area, which is usually designated per gun, right? Per gun, per unit, per soldier, anything that steps into that area is okay to fire on for the duration of like this operation. Not a long-term operation generally, like not like, and it's not like a permanent thing because like we just everything has to die in that zone, and it's not big. We're talking like literally this is this tiny area in front of our entry control point, in front of an ECP. That's a kill zone if anyone tries to get into it, usually in a certain way. If they look a certain, like if they have a certain vibe, there's so many thousands of fucking rules that have to be even hit before that becomes the kill zone for them, that you can usually fucking like just tell people to go get the fuck away. I had a kill zone technically that was next to our fucking area, you know what I mean? Like on our post sort of, and that the people would go through all the time. And I just would let them go because like I'm not gonna fucking shoot anyone. just guys. Now it is if they ran at me wearing like a fucking dish dash and like a full fucking like their eyes out, you know, fucking balaclava with a gun, then yeah, I could fucking shoot them. But only in that highly specific case. You know what I'm saying? the area of operations is, I think, what Destiny is Destiny has to be talking to people that are pro-genocide at this point, because this is this one sentence. We're going to break down this entire tweet. This one sentence is psychotic, because I don't even know what the fuck you're trying to articulate from that. Now, you can tell people that we're going to be fighting in an area, all right? Which happens. If we're talking about that, like, this is like, if we're talking about like Operation Phantom Fury, 2003, the push into Fallujah, dropping leaflets, dropping flyers. Hey, American forces are going to be assaulting into this area. We are going to be assaulting into this area. This is going to become a firing zone. People will be engaged in combat operations. It's highly suggested that you evacuate from that space. That's a thing you can do. When you do that, you have to provide a humanitarian corridor for full evacuation, or you are committing a war crime. You have to provide a non-stop, consistent, protected humanitarian corridor for evacuation, or if you push into that area, you're creating basically death pressure, and you will start killing civilians, because that's just the most obvious fucking thing. There's no rule that permits you to do otherwise. That's psychotic. You have to let the civilians evacuate. What's the fucking point of telling them? So that doesn't matter. Declaring the Gaza Strip a combat zone is meaningless, because you kind of can't tell people, like, hey, you need to evacuate, if they can't evacuate. They're all still stuck there. Telling people you have to provide them like more than enough time. You have to have a reasonable suspicion that everyone's gone, and if they don't all leave, you can't attack that area. You have to change your tactics. You can't just be like, hey, I'm going to come I'm going to come hit your town on Thursday. And they're like, what do you mean? Like, I'm going to hit your town on Thursday, and I'm trying to find this one guy. So you all have to leave. And they're like, no. Like, if they don't leave because there's not like an obvious and imminent threat of danger, but then you just start fucking hitting the buildings with like tomahawks, like you're committing a fucking war crime. So yeah, like, Israel has been committing like nonstop war crimes and crimes against humanity. That's just it. I'm sorry. They just have been doing that. I know they feel bad about their civilians that died. I respect that too, but they just fight like fucking idiots. Like, the IDF is just an incompetent force of fucking morons. That's why you shouldn't fight with the conscription force. They're always going to be not as good as a based fucking volunteer force. Like, do you think the fucking IDF is going to be half as good as a fucking any jack fuck Marine Corps reserve unit? No, they're conscripts. They're being forced to fight. They're going to be dog shit, dude. Conscript armies are fucking garbage. They barely ever get shit done. They're fucking trash. No offense. That's why the draft shouldn't exist. If you can't get everybody to want to fight for you, then you shouldn't be fighting. Because if you have to force people to scrap, you're a fucking monster. Unironically, I think acts of conscription should be qualified as war crimes. Because if you can't get volunteers to fight, then go fuck yourself. You know, just be better at propaganda. It'd be nice to see you in a debate. Seems like you have a lot of expertise to offer on military subjects. Not even that much. This is like, it's crazy. Like, this isn't even a military debate. Like, a military debate with like an actual guy would be me. Like, if I, like, someone I respected, a real military debate would be talking about like the efficacy of Operation Phantom Fury as a method to secure Fallujah, based on like what like specific like tactics and stuff went down. You have that kind of conversation with like a general grade officer, you will have your fucking mind blown, because you'll be able to talk. I am describing fundamentals. This is yet again me just talking about like, no, you don't cross your feet when you're running at somebody. Like, that's crazy. Like there's just the lack of like insight into this stuff is not. We're a sentence in. We'll go here. Posted warnings is crazy. Because first off, you can't post warnings for a place that people already are. You can't put a trespassing sign, no trespassing sign on the front door of somebody who already lives there. That's just psychotic. You can post warnings and drop leaflets. We've done that before in areas to try to get people to evacuate. It still does not justify the killing of civilians. It just doesn't. Civilians do die during combat operations. It's literally fucking unavoidable just because of the way that we don't meet up in fields anymore because that's like a psychotic way to fight, and then just only fight soldier to soldier until like a decisive victory happens kind of thing. We don't do that. And unironically, even when we did, like there was more civilian death tolls then. That just doesn't happen. So civilians do die during war. However, with the IDF, they are unironically waging war against a civilian populace under the guise of saying it's anti-terrorist action. And the thing is like, well, what should they do? Like not attack them? And it's like, yeah, but literally yes. But like none of this is COINTEL. You know what I mean? None of this is fucking none of this is effective anti-insurgent tactics or rhetoric. I fought an anti-insurgency war. I can't recite the book to you, but you're not going to fucking say something from that book that's going to that's going to surprise me. Like 20 months in fucking country, you know what I mean? Like total. And I'm not a fucking big dog. I'm not like that hardcore. I just listened to the 50,000 fucking hours of briefings. Like I have a collegiate, basically like Bachelor of the Arts. I've got like a BA in fucking smoking dudes. A little bit of a lapsed diploma, I assure you. But like, there's other guys that have masters and doctorates that would absolutely fucking lay the floor with me if I try to like talk like game. If I try to talk game theory with Mad Dog Mattis, I just want to say, just before he dies, I would love that. Unironically, like Mad Dog, I would talk to you for fucking 6 hours. I would just sit there like a fucking puppy in front of a fire and let his knowledge wash over me. And then I would tell all of my friends like, yeah, I know we're in our 30s, but I felt like I was 18 again. It was really fucking cool. That's like what I'm talking about. But like, this is me just saying like, this is just fundamentals. You know what I'm saying? This is like when we're talking, it's so hard to describe because if you don't have any like fundamental knowledge of this stuff, it might seem like this is like a good question, but he's basically in a similar way asking like very like he has a point that he's getting ready to be made. Like, I don't understand specifically why antibiotics cannot treat viral infections. It seems that antibiotics were really good at working against smallpox, which was virulent. Why can they not work against the influenza? Like, and then like there will be some like nitpick in there that's for like a high level conversation. Like, well, there are certain types of antibiotics that can be used to treat aspects of viral infections because of blah, 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 blah. So you're saying is that antibiotics can be used to treat viral infections. You're like, no, that is literally not what I'm fucking saying. And like, I don't think that you have like the fucking like the basis to be talking about this kind of shit. They never have a counter argument to the objective fact that Palestinian support for Hamas correlates directly to how violent Israel is being at any given point in time. And you can just ignore anybody's vibe on that because like literal counterinsurgency document, all counterinsurgency says that if you fuck up occupation, every time you do anything that's bad in occupation, you will increase naturally the support for any counter-occupying force. That is so big. That's the most basic aspect of counterinsurgency operations, that it is written, it's like blood encoded into your DNA as a fucking like ground foot soldier to not do it. If you have to err on the side of like making yourself kind of look like an asshole in order to not piss off the locals, do that, because it can prevent someone getting sniped fucking 3 days down the road, because you don't have any rights in a foreign country that you're occupying. You kind of really don't. And Israel is occupying basically like a foreign country. You don't give them any rights. They're in an apartheid state. They don't have any like equivalent voting rights. Even your own people are like, there's suspensions of your constitution, I believe, that are going on that are continuing this. I don't even care to hear the fucking deeper aspects of it. You're just, if you have second class citizens in your country that you're responsible for because you have removed a significant enough amount of rights that they should be given rights in return that they're not being delivered, then you are doing an illegal occupation. If the illegal occupation is continuing and that's like the de facto aspect of existence there, then that's apartheid, basically. Apartheid is the equivalent of post fucking Civil War America, the way that black people were treated. Black people lived in a greater apartheid state that was the United States of America, which Nazi Germany based their version of, which fucking South Africa based their version of. It's just a continuing thing. It's just crazy that the Jews picked up on it, because you would think they knew better, but like, there they go. Grantham gives, I make vague allusions to doing atrocities for comedy purposes, but I also, unironically, I did do them on purpose vibes. I hope not. Killjoy, they have a whole training in basic where they tell you all the shit you know about the military from movies is bullshit, and if you try it, you end up on your face pushing the earth. I mean, basically. Just don't try to be a hero. Don't try to be a fucking goof. Don't think that you can save the fucking world. And that's pretty much it. Maybe I have brain rot because my country has conscription, but I think building a reserve for defense is an okay idea. It's not. Having a defense reserve of volunteers is good. Having a conscription army is a terrible idea. It's generally not been the best. We've had a lot of conscription armies in the past, but it's just been shown time and time again that all volunteer armies behave better. They work harder. They fight harder because they have something to fight for. And all volunteer forces, kind of just in general throughout the world, tend to have higher morale. And low morale is what gets you war crimes. Low morale is why people rape people. Low morale is why people fucking steal. It's why they fucking do this, because you don't care to follow the rules. If you didn't volunteer to follow the rules, why would you care to follow them when following them gets difficult? My country has national service. That better or worse than conscription? National service is fine. Conscripted combat forces specifically is always bad. Your combat forces especially should be volunteer only. Heinlein agrees with me. Which hopefully we get back into. Well, conscription is still respected in Finland, and with 5 million people, you need a larger force than a couple thousand volunteers to defend yourself. That, if it's a situation where the entire country is cool with it, then it can be fine. You know what I mean? If it's like a national service thing, but it's like everyone's fine with it, that really is an aspect of volunteerism, right? That like the buy-in is there. It is still Finland. When was the last time you guys were tested was fighting Russia, which has always been a full conscript army, basically. No choice really in Russia if you're going to fight or not. It feels like. Terrible as the politics were in the country, Rhodesia and the Bush War is also a good example of what a highly motivated volunteer force was able to accomplish. Dude, you can say a lot of things, and should say a lot of things about how bad Rhodesia was, but as far as scrapping goes, you have to give it. Those cocksuckers were fucking putting planes back together. Racism is a powerful motivator, is all I've got to say. Those fucking Rhodesians were putting planes back together with like lawnmower parts and like chunks of automobiles to go bomb dudes. Psychotic. Zimbabwe apparently hasn't been doing all that good afterwards either, so I mean, better than nothing, really. Anyway, let's back to this Destiny thing. And his posted warnings or through audio communications told people to stay out. Is the military within their legal right to kill civilians who are given the warnings but ignore them anyway? No. No. There is no legal right to killing. You can just get rid of all of this. So this is why this is a stupid question also. The summation is, do they have a legal right to kill? There is no right to kill. There is no right to kill. There is no right to kill. There's just not. There is no right to kill. You have to work to a situation where are they justified in killing is how you're supposed to articulate that. This is fucking really weird to sit down and type out. It's very strange. There is no right to kill. There's no legal rights to kill anything. That would be the part that's established. That's the right. So you're having the conversation in a strange way, especially if you're asking, you're asking a legal question. Is there a ruling or something that defines a legal right? Is gnarly. The right to the justification for killing the laws of warfare, law of land warfare, Geneva Conventions, everything. I've studied a bunch of them. I've never seen any deviation from this. It is proportionality to military necessity only. That's what justifies taking a shot. You can run through 10 million fucking hypotheticals. Every hypothetical will have a different fucking end result, which is why this hypothetical is fucking stupid, because there's just no absolutes in war. There just aren't, first off. This is actually Destiny not understanding that he's asking a game theory question. A game theory, but not like the lame thing, but like actually like game theory, like taught at fucking military colleges how to like figure shit out. And this game theory is how to commit a war crime and get away with it. What he's asking is literally, how can I do war crime actions and then have them be justified? That's literally what you're asking, because that's the result you're going to achieve. It's not hypothetical, sit around, play video games shit. We're talking about actual people dying and people going out and staining their permanent God-given souls, if you want to articulate it that way, with the blood of their enemies and the potential blood of, in this case, unarmed civilians who are saying no. You know what I mean? That's crazy. You can always game theorize whatever you want to try to figure out your way into a situation. People do it all the time. This is why it boils down to, if you think you're doing it wrong, stop, because you're probably doing it. And even if you get away with it, you've still done it. That is the bad thing to do, because it will only always inevitably result in a worse outcome than, more than likely, a competent military could have accomplished a better outcome in the same situation if you didn't try to do this. So this is stupid. The reason why this is dumb is you're trying to mix non-binding. I don't even know if it's I have no idea to what degree the LOAC or the IHL binds the capabilities of the IDF. If I looked it up, if it's just a yes or no, I could just tell you that as our allies, we tend to expect our allies to generally, unless everyone's ignoring them, rise to the minimal standards that we would set for our soldiers, which is why IDF looks like dog shit in the world's eyes, because just any unadulterated footage from that fucking conflict makes them look like morons that are fumbling the bag and making their own adversaries worse, because Hamas is a terrorist organization and they are reactionary. And when you provide reactionaries actual good things to react to, like civilian deaths and deprivations, you will make them much stronger. It's a much stronger shadow to cast. This is mixing military tactics with legislation, which is a strange and ugly bedfellow to kind of create. What you should be articulating is how to keep the civilians safe if you need to move into an area. So what you're trying to say is, we need to establish an area. So he's saying a lot of different things. I don't know what the military necessity of this is. That's the problem. I don't know what the military necessity is of this. We can ignore the second question. We don't need the second question yet at all, because the answer is also, I believe, probably just hard no. This is phrased in a way that pre-justifies military necessity of killing civilians before the military necessity itself has been established. That's the reason. So what we're trying to do is establish a hardline rule with this question of that absolutely civilians can be killed in this situation, when all of the rules about laws of land warfare and stuff are established on mitigating civilian casualties at all times, which is why any fucking short colonel, a major, a captain, a lieutenant, a fucking second lieutenant, all the way down to most PFCs and lance corporals and privates should experience this question as like, wait, what the fuck are you talking about? Or at least you're smart enough to say, like, I don't make decisions like that. I have no idea. Kind of how you should work. Because the rules that you're taught is always don't kill civilians. Just don't kill civilians. Don't kill civilians. If you can avoid it, don't kill civilians. Try not to kill civilians. Don't do anything that would just arbitrarily kill civilians. So this is pre-justifying the slaughter of civilians by basically, is there two things that I can do to just start smoking everybody? Another major issue for this is we're creating a dead zone. This is just establishment of a no man's land for no reason. Just for any reason is what he's asking, which is also like Destiny. Like, are you stupid or what the fuck? Why the fuck are you saying this? He's just trying to establish in this hypothetical a no man's land just cuz. A just cuz no man's land, which is also illegal. It's just you can't have undue pressure on civilian infrastructure because you'll start killing civilians. That's why. You can't do it. You'll start killing civilians. Why shouldn't you just kill civilians? Because first off, you can't kill all of them. It's impossible. No one's successfully done a full genocide of a population without committing to it for like decades upon decades upon decades in modern history. Nowadays, it's next to impossible. You will more than likely create massive insurgencies before you actually successfully kill all of the civilians. So you just shouldn't do it. In a callous way, you just shouldn't do it because it will never achieve any military victory for you at all, and it will create extremely bad long-term problems for the survivors of your war on your own side. It's just a bad move in general to do. Every time you think it's worked out, just wait another 10 years and you'll find out that Kissinger was wrong. Basically every fucking time. In this case, you're creating a no man's land, which puts pressure on that area because you eliminate transit, you eliminate commerce, you eliminate reconstruction, you eliminate human traversal on an undefined area of land. How big? I'm assuming the entirety of Gaza or just wherever any IDF soldier happens to look in any direction. So no, not only is it not okay, it contravenes every sensible way to fight a war, to win one, and to justifiably live with yourself after. And not in a way where I'm like, you feel good. First off, you shouldn't, and you probably won't. But like, you will never rebuild that area. Because first off, if military force is the only thing keeping that area empty, you are going to have to permanently maintain a no man's land indefinitely. See North Korea, South Korea's no man's land, how expensive that probably is for both sides to maintain, how big of a waste of space it is. There's another one in India, Pakistan border region that's a no man's land. That's wasted space. No one gets to use it. It's trash. Those are just bad things to do. Sometimes they become political necessities because of tenuous pieces that exist. In this case, you're just creating a no man's land in order to articulate a genocide or an ethnic cleansing. Because if you're trying to create a no man's land that a specific ethnicity that is not your ethnicity is on, and it just involves the existence, the presupposition that any civilian on that area can die, and all of those civilians are an ethnicity that's not yours, that you don't want there, that is an ethnic cleansing. There's so many different ways to reinterpret this that are all war crimes or like contraventions of the Hague. This is crazy. I really can't fucking hit it hard enough that this is a crazy question to ask. Like, once you think of it for more than 2 seconds, which I think he was doing when he wrote it, like, do you not get that this is it's just, what minimum steps do we have to be able to take to create a war crime is a crazy game theory question. Like, and it gets asked all the time. This is a Donald Trump. Okay, so how many things? All right, so if we just warn them and we put up signs, can we remove them from the area? Why can't we get them out? We don't need them there. They need to get out of here. Why aren't they gone already? Why aren't they? They need to be gone. They need to be gone. I don't want to see them there anymore. It's it's that level of fucking brainless. I don't understand the confidence it took to make that statement. But if you continue down, Do the civilians? This is triply psychotic. Now I can answer this one. Do the civilians become military objects? Are they counted as aiding the enemy, taking part in hostilities, or how does that interaction work? That is a psychotic question to ask. Because first off, no, civilians are civilians. I don't know what military objects means. What the fuck? I have read so many. I have read war stories that are fictional. I have read war stories that are true. I have read war stories that proclaim to be true and are fictional. And I have never, that I can recall, heard a thing where people reclassify civilians as military objects outside of like a 1984 style thing, like or like Heinlein, I guess, to a degree, when he's talking about like murdering skinnies and shit. In those, like, that, I've only heard it like relative to a genocide, because it's reclassification of a non-target to a target is what you're basically doing. How this is psychotic again. This is another. It's game theorizing. This is another. How can I turn an unfair target into a fair target? Is like, dude, just fucking eat a bullet yourself, because that is disgusting. That is a psychotic thing. You're literally just, how can I turn a target into a target? Does the target, non-target, become a target? It's like, it's little kid shit, but it's an adult guy who's somehow been having this conversation online and saying he's been reading all these books and getting like caught up on stuff. But like, he's been having the, like, for months. How are you asking this question so late in the game, man? No, there is nothing that changes a civilian into a fair target aside from them ceasing to be a civilian anymore by engaging in combat. When they become combatants by engaging in combat with you, then they stop being civilians. What are you talking about? Why are you comfortable asking this question is crazy to me. It is such a little kid's understanding of the world from a guy who said he's been reading books. Like, what were you do you know the words that were in the books, or did you just keep letting your eyes scan sentence by sentence until you got to the end of the things? Because that's nuts, man. That's nuts. Like, and this is unironically, like, Destiny has made some points in his conversations that I think need to be part of the greater conversation. That and none of them are particularly insightful, and none of them are things that people haven't been articulating better from other viewpoints. But I think this is definitely the point where he needs to step away from it permanently. I don't understand the fundamentals, the absolute fundamentals of what I'm talking about. The absolute fundamentals. Absolute fundamentals. I have to say it 50 times. The absolute fundamentals of what he's talking about. He has they're not there yet. This is the first day question. This is when you're trying to articulate whether or not a genocide is happening. You need to understand all of this before you start parsing your opinion into stuff and trying to figure out. You don't need to know what happened in Palestine in 1922 or 1831 or 1624 before that history doesn't matter if you can't understand this shit. How does that interaction work? The interaction works is civilians are civilians until they fight you, and then they're combatants. They can walk around with guns. They can have them slung on their back. They can load them, clean them. They can tell you, I'm going to come back and kill you later. Okay, whatever, pussy. I'm ready to fight when you are. You better be a good fucking sniper, because I'll fucking eat that entire building and you with it. But that's it. They're civilians. They're walking around with guns. That's fine. Let them do it. Because I'll tell you what, they'll probably cool the fuck down. That, still civilians. If they get together and you've researched, because you have actual spec ops that do shit, and you have intel and you can find an active cell of people inside a civilian area, you can hit that cell, usually with a team of individuals that go and fucking do a hard strike on a building in the middle of the night. That's what special operations are for. You can do that. But you can't just start saying every civilian is a combatant because I have a feel. I did stuff that they have no power over, by the way, is all of this. No, the civilians have nothing. The civilians are existing in an area, and then you do stuff that turns them into combatants and lets you fucking free fire on them? That's so crazy. Why would you ask that? It is so crazy. Are you guys catching up yet? If you're a Destiny supporter, this is the moment. This is what I will fucking debate you on. Hop in. You're asking if there's a thing you can do to turn any area, regardless of military necessity or whatsoever. Can I turn an area into a free fire zone by doing shit on my own that the civilians have nothing to do with? They don't do anything. I do one or two things, and then if they don't accede to my demands, I can start killing them. Yeah, you can do that. Put on a little skull with 2 X's on the bottom, get a few of your friends together, and then just go to Warsaw and start shooting Jews. That's the same fucking thing. What the fuck are you talking about? That's a fucking genocide. You're asking if I can justify an ethnic cleansing. You're asking if you can create a no man's land in a non-combatant area. You're asking to do war crimes. Off rip. You're just trying to get away with it, man. That is psychotic. Okay, have I caught you guys up yet? Do you get why this is crazy, right? Some of you guys might have been figuring it out from the beginning. But I feel like sometimes you gotta talk motherfuckers down. Holy fuck. You can't enable PvP for someone else. Literally, can I turn on their PvP by doing shit they have no fucking control over? No. You stupid fuck, no. No. Nor should you be able to. What in the fuck does that what? Do you want people to be able to do that to you? That's the stupidest shit I've ever heard. This is why I saw this. Basically, this is one of those ones where I saw it like right before I fell asleep, and it haunted me through my dreams. I woke up thinking about it. I knew it was going to take me a while to talk about it, but like, holy fuck. How about asking some of the most like seemingly innocent? Someone probably thought that this was clever. I saw people trying to answer this and being like, well, I need a little bit more information before I kind of get into. But no, my man. Fuck. You could kind of just ignore this shit at the bottom. Because these assumptions, civilians are fully aware of the warning. It doesn't matter. Military is clearly operating in the area. It doesn't matter. The civilians are aware of what they are doing, which is staying somewhere. That's crazy because like Jacksonville, North Carolina is where Camp Lejeune was. That's where I live. We would drive around on the public streets of Jacksonville from like place to place on Camp Lejeune, because Camp Lejeune, you can't get to every part of it because it's full of swamps. You have to drive off base sometimes to different parts of Camp Lejeune to do like firing ranges and this, that, and the other. And you got to put big ass fucking guns on military trucks and drive them through like downtown Jacksonville, whatever, Highway 22. I can't remember. Shout out Driftwood. People were like, I don't know if he was in the military or not. No one else would have just said the words I just said. Lejeune Boulevard, baby. Hit up the Texas Roadhouse. You drive around to the other side of the base. You go to one of the many ranges that are out there and shoot stuff. There's no point where I'm operating in that area where I can just like run over a civilian car and say like, hey, they should have known we were operating in the area. Like, why were the civilians in the street that is their street? That sounds fucking stupid. Like, that's not what Destiny said. That's what Destiny said. That's what Destiny said. Except for it is Jews and brown people that we're talking about. So, you know, maybe not necessarily like people to him. I don't know what the vibe is over there in fucking Miami right now. But like, bro, that's the same thing. We warn them too. Hey, there's a military convoy going to be coming through this area. Just be careful. There's very big cars and things that have limited visibility to see vehicles the way that vehicle like civilian street vehicles do, because they don't have as many windows because of the bulletproof shit. Be careful around them. Doesn't really justify you just being like, hey, why don't we just drive across the median and just ramp a fucking tank over somebody's Ford F-350? Like, you can't do that. Why do you think it changes in a combat zone? Like, why do you think it's different? Literally ask, because if you're like, well, I don't know, then shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Start to finish. If you can't answer, like, why is it different if it's in a combat zone? Literally, shut the fuck up about the whole. Why are you talking about anything? It's crazy that you're having this conversation. I gave him so much credit because I was like, oh, man's trying to read books. He's trying to get up on the situation at hand. And then this shit? Well, it's just an innocent question. No, that's like a beginner question. It's like going on to the fucking, onto like, you haven't, imagine if he had a 6-month conversation, 6 month debating Shaquille O'Neal about basketball. And Shaquille O'Neal's like, you're a fucking idiot. I don't know what the fuck you're asking me questions. And then he asks a question after like a debate with somebody that's operated at the highest level of the conversations that can happen there. And then he asks like, okay, so do you always have to dribble? What? Because I understand sometimes you don't have to dribble. Like, are you talking about a Euro step? What is a Euro step? Now, I've noticed that sometimes the ball hits the backboard and doesn't. Is it always required to hit the backboard in the square? And you're like, what? How are you trying to have a conversation about who the top 5 centers are in the NBA and you don't know what dunking is? What? Like, my man's got heated opinions on whether or not Larry Bird's the best, like, 3-point shooter. You know, he is. But, like, he's just talking about, like, Larry Bird's the GOAT, Larry Bird's the GOAT, Larry Bird's the GOAT. Like, yeah, okay. And then you're like, you tell him, like, you know, like, on the other side of that line is out of bounds. He goes, so now you can't go everywhere? You have to stay inside the square on the outside of the court? Yeah, man. What? Weren't you just having a 6-month conversation about Larry Bird was the best? Like, why are you talking about Larry Bird so much? Why do you care so much about Larry Bird being a GOAT? That's crazy that you were so fired up about Larry Bird being the GOAT. And you don't know that much about basketball. That's crazy. If you don't know much about basketball, I just had a whole conversation with somebody and they're going, I was being a little mean there. Tell a random black dude, yeah, he's a real big Larry Bird fan. Oh yeah, he lives in Chicago, but he's a Celtics fan. 1996, talking about, man, my favorite player is Larry Bird. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.